When I told my wife of 1 year that I wanted a divorce, she just glanced at me from across the dinner table and nodded. "Okay," she said, her voice even. "I'll have my lawyer begin the process of splitting the assets. In a month, we can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to finalize the paperwork." It was all very straightforward and businesslike, which was typical for her. But later that night, as I was scrolling aimlessly on my phone, I stumbled upon a question posted on a public forum. The question was, "My husband wants a divorce. What can I do to win him back in the next month?" The craziest thing was the poster's profile picture. It was identical to my wife Clara's. I stared at the photo on my phone. A serene image of a deep blue night sky fringed with clusters of delicate white flowers. It was calm and beautiful, just like her. I zoomed in, took a screenshot, and compared the two images side by side until I had to admit they were the same. The possibility made me want to laugh, but a strange feeling stopped me. If the picture was hers, then the person asking the question had to be her too. With a mix of disbelief and curiosity, I clicked back to the post and read it carefully. "My husband wants a divorce, and I need help winning him back in a month. We got married for practical reasons, and it's been a year now. We actually went to the same high school, and he was my first love. I still like him a lot. I know he has someone from his past that he can't seem to let go of, and I also know he married me for my family's assets. But I don't mind. Just seeing him every day makes me happy. The problem is, I don't know what I did wrong for him to suddenly want a divorce today. I managed to delay it for a month, but I don't know what to do next. I can't bear the thought of divorcing him, yet I feel like I should respect his wishes. Can anyone help me analyze the situation? I'm willing to pay generously for good advice." The post ended there. It must have been recent because there were only a handful of replies. I scrolled through them, shocked to see that the original poster had replied seriously to each one. One comment read, "Dude, don't be such a pushover. You have to have some self-respect. He likes someone else. What are you waiting for? I could introduce you to someone new, very reliable." Her reply was, "Thanks, but I'm not interested in meeting someone new. I don't want a divorce." Another person commented, "What do you mean he married you for your assets? That's a classic user. Just give him more money. That'll shut him up." She responded sharply, "Please hold back your malicious assumptions, or I'll have my lawyer contact you. Besides, my money is his money. I'm happy to share it with him." Someone else wrote, "Stop trying to persuade her. She's head over heels. Unbelievable. Best of luck. I hope you two are stuck together forever." To that, she replied, "Thank you. I appreciate the blessing." As I scrolled down, I saw that most of the advice was just telling her to split up. After reading the whole thread, I was surprisingly dazed. The IP address, the profile picture, the timing of the post, it all matched Clara. But the tone was entirely different from the cool, composed woman I knew. And what was all this about us going to the same high school? I had no memory of that. First love? This was all news to me. These doubts helped me cool down. Maybe it was just a bizarre coincidence. I tried to convince myself of that as I closed the forum, looking for something else to distract me. But a nagging feeling, like an itch I couldn't scratch, lingered in the back of my mind. Finally, about 10 minutes later, I made a decision. I created a new account and gave myself the name Relationship Guru Simon. Then, I navigated to the poster's profile and sent her a carefully crafted message. "Are you struggling in the whirlwind of love? Tormented by matters of the heart? I am a relationship guru and seasoned counselor who has helped over 500 clients find love and build fulfilling marriages. If you are yearning for change and happiness, reach out to me. Let's craft a custom strategy just for you. Your happiness awaits." 2 seconds after I hit send, I stared at the screen, a little unsure of myself. Would this actually work? My marriage to Clara wasn't simple. A year ago, a major shareholder in my company, who had a serious gambling addiction, embezzled a large sum of company funds. When his crime was exposed, he committed suicide, and the money was nearly impossible to recover. At the same time, a big order was due, and my company was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. That's when Clara showed up. She had a certain notoriety at the time. After being abandoned abroad by a large corporation, she had returned home and reported her own father for illegal activities, which landed him in jail. During the ensuing chaos in his company, she acquired a massive number of shares as the stock price plummeted, effortlessly becoming a major shareholder. Everyone said Clara was ruthless, that she would betray anyone for profit. But when she came to my company, she brought only a single contract with her. The terms were simple. She would invest enough to save my company from its crisis. In return, she wanted to share sales channels and, most notably, enter into a marriage of convenience with me to ensure our cooperation was solid. I checked the contract 3 times, convinced the terms were so favorable that it had to be a windfall. I was prepared for her to have some strange issues or aggressive tendencies, maybe as a way to vent her frustrations. I even thought about how I could protect myself, gather evidence of her instability, and possibly use it to overpower her and seize her assets in the future. I admit it sounded opportunistic, but I simply didn't trust someone who would turn on her own father to suddenly play the role of a savior for no reason. But I was completely wrong. She was normal and surprisingly kind. She would have the nanny cook my favorite dishes. She often sent me small gifts. When I was overwhelmed with work, she would offer sound advice. Thanks to her help, my company's value tripled in just 1 year. There were moments when I indulged myself, wondering if she might actually like me. But whenever I tried to get closer, she would evade me like the wind, always maintaining a careful distance. It felt like playing mind games with a house cat. After several failed attempts, I learned to maintain the proper distance with my nominal wife. In short, work topics were fair game, small talk was often met with silence, and any physical contact was strictly off-limits. By following these unspoken rules, we navigated a year together smoothly. So why did I bring up divorce in the first place? It was simple. Clara is a good person. No matter what others might say about her, to me she was undeniably good. Honestly, if she had been even a little bit mean to me, I probably would have taken advantage of our marriage and tried to take a significant piece of her fortune. But she was too nice, which left me without any excuse to do so. I have a personal principle. I don't bully good people. So it felt better to just break things off cleanly. I believed that even without the marriage between us, we could still be good friends and business partners. It would feel more natural. That was what I had wanted to tell her. I never expected that when I mentioned divorce at the dinner table, she would agree without a moment's hesitation. She didn't even finish her meal before rushing back to her room. It was almost as if she couldn't wait to get away. My carefully prepared explanation was stuck in my throat. What could I say? That I was doing it for her own good? That I wanted to divorce her because I respected her? It sounded fake no matter how I framed it. I ate the rest of the dinner in silence and quickly went back to my own room. I wasn't sure if I was upset because she had agreed so quickly, which felt like a hit to my ego, or because for once I had tried to do something good, and she didn't seem to appreciate it. Maybe it was a bit of both. In any case, I was irritated. The reason I had clicked on that divorce question in the first place was that I saw someone in a similar situation and wanted to see how others handled it. I certainly didn't expect to find this kind of surprise. Anger can come and go quickly. For instance, now I was holding my phone, looking at the new message that had just popped up, and my earlier irritation had completely faded. Instead, I was filled with a sense of excitement. Because if this online poster wasn't my wife, it was no big deal. But if it was her, the information contained in her post could be incredibly interesting. Deep down, though, I thought it probably wasn't her. So I replied to the new message in a calm and objective tone. Hi, I was just wondering, is it common for couples to reconcile after filing for divorce? Her reply came back quickly. It really depends, but the success rate for impulsive divorces is quite high. My husband isn't impulsive, she wrote. If he filed for divorce, it must have been after careful consideration. Can you do anything about that? I can't make any guarantees, I typed, but I promise to do my best to help. Would you like to try my consulting services? Why not? How much? I wasn't sure what to charge, so I set a low price and sent her a payment code from a small account. A $1,000 deposit and another $1,000 upon success. There was no reply for a moment, as if she was hesitating. Did I overcharge? Just then, a transaction notification popped up on my phone, along with a snarky message from her. Message, you've received $10,000. I transferred it, her message read. Your fees are so low, are you really qualified? Feeling a bit guilty, I quickly typed back. Of course I'm qualified. Please trust in my professional skills. I promise you'll get a refund if it doesn't work out. It's not about the money. Fine, start with your normal process. Great, I'll begin now, I replied. First, the most important question. Do you have any idea why your husband filed for divorce? Perhaps I hit a nerve, because she suddenly started sharing a lot more. The truth is, I know it's my fault, she wrote. I'm not good enough for him. I'm average looking. I live a dull life and all I do is work. I'm a boring person. Even though we've been married for a year, apart from necessary physical contact, he never comes near me. I'm not good at conversations. I get nervous when he shares stories with me, and I'm never sure how to respond. Honestly, if his family hadn't needed the help that I was able to provide, he never would have been with me. I guess he wants a divorce now because the problem is solved and he's had enough of me. The messages kept coming, each one more depressing than the last, filling my screen with a sense of gloom. I frowned, utterly stunned by her candor. So, she helped him out of a bind to get married, but they don't talk or connect, leaving their relationship cold. Now that the problem is solved, he wants a divorce, yet she wants to hang on. What sort of marriage was this? It was like she had invited a goddess to live in her house and then ignored her. I suddenly felt powerless. I wanted to reach through the screen and snap her out of her romantic delusions. But with that $10,000 in my account, I held back. It wasn't a lot of money, but the person paying calls the shots. I know this well, and I was the one who reached out first. Even though I thought I had the wrong person, she had confided in me, so dropping everything now wouldn't feel right. Yep, I realized my mistake when she said she was average looking. I knew then that she couldn't be my wife. Whatever else you could say about Clara, her looks were top tier. She had dark eyes, a sharp nose, and lips that were often pressed into a cold, brooding expression. Her most notable feature was her silver-gray eyes, apparently inherited from a Scandinavian grandfather, which resulted in a face that was close to perfect. Whenever we dined together, just glancing at her made the meal taste better. But I digress. I decided to assist this inquirer anyway. It wouldn't stress me out, and our marriages did share some similarities. Maybe I could see things more clearly than a real expert could. With that in mind, I dove into my role as a relationship guru, my fingers typing quickly. By necessary physical contact, do you include marital relations? The other party immediately got defensive. What? What are you implying? Of course not. I would never take advantage of someone. Wow, this person's dating intelligence was lower than a child's. I maintained my composure and asked more questions. All right, how's your physique? I work out regularly, so it's decent, she replied. Wait, why are you asking this? Naturally, to help you figure things out, I explained. Since he's mentioned divorce, it means the way you two are interacting isn't working. You're the one trying to save this marriage, so you need to take the initiative and change. But you said you're not great with words, so there's only one solution. What's that? Use your body to seduce him. I could almost picture how shocked and flustered she must be right now, seeing a string of random letters pop up on her side of the screen. Stay calm and think about it, I typed. Your husband is a healthy guy, and you two have been married for a year but have never been intimate. It's only natural that he has needs. Don't you? I asked, hitting the mark. As expected, she couldn't come up with a response for a long time. Seeing she had nothing to say, I continued to advise her, gently but persuasively. If you can't change your personality quickly, why not try the allure of hormones? And come on, it's not like you're losing anything by trying it out. Who knows, he might just be into it. As my words kept flowing, she finally interrupted, exercising her right to say no to the plan. No way, I can't do it. Think of something else. But I was steady and went straight for reverse psychology. Then keep things as they are, and I'll see you at the Civil Affairs Bureau for that divorce in a month. She suddenly went silent. The typing indicator on her end kept flashing, showing her internal struggle. Finally, after 10 long minutes, she awkwardly messaged back. Seduce him! How do I do that? Seeing the message, I paused for a moment, then couldn't help but chuckle. Love really can make the smartest people in the world turn into fools, I thought to myself, typing away quickly as I explained the whole plan, laying out the steps clearly and logically. There was a brief silence on the other end. I wasn't sure what she was visualizing. She finally spoke again, her tone having changed completely. So, Master, what did you do before this? Well, what could I say? I was kind of a CEO, you know. When you're in a high position, there are always some sneaky people trying to test your limits. Luckily, I'm always frank and honest, so I pass each test. Of course, there was no need to mention all those tales. I pretended to be mysterious and replied, Don't ask, it's just experience. All right, Master, I'll try it when I get the chance. I'll let you know how it goes. I sent back an okay hand emoji. Then I noticed it was already past 10 o'clock. We had been chatting for over an hour. I must have been pretty idle. Shaking my head, I headed to the bathroom to take a shower, then slipped into my pajamas, ready for bed. Suddenly, there was a polite knock at my door. Who could be coming over this late? Wondering, I got up, pulled the door open, and asked, Who is it? Halfway through speaking, I was stunned. Clara stood at the door. She glanced at me and, in her usual calm voice, simply said, I forgot to mention, in 2 weeks, you need to attend the Smiths' party with me. It was a normal setting, a normal tone, and a normal topic. Everything was normal, and yet, tonight she was wearing a black silk nightgown. The delicate fabric outlined her curves perfectly. Sure, I've said before that I'm well-tested, but isn't this a little too challenging? To look or not to look? That was the question. Looking felt like I had a guilty conscience, but not looking felt like a missed opportunity. Chances like this were rare. In the year we had lived together, Clara always wrapped herself up as if she were heading to a formal gala. I had never seen her looking so casual. Wait, this isn't right. I suddenly looked up, a sense of incredulous realization dawning on me. Isn't this outfit of hers exactly like the advice I just gave my online friend? I'm no fool. Once or twice could be a coincidence, but now it felt like I was being hit over the head with the proof. It turns out that the person with zero emotional intelligence, the terribly shy spendthrift who was also a sycophantic, love-struck fool, and the stone-faced, breathtakingly beautiful young business prodigy standing before me, the one who could manipulate old corporate foxes with ease. They were indeed the same person, and that meant I was the cold, heartless husband she was so devoted to. Clara, so this is how you saw me? If I didn't know myself, I'd almost be fooled by your description. Honestly, was I the one not making any moves? Who was the one that ran away faster than a rabbit whenever I tried to get close? And this so-called long-lost love from my past? Since when did I have one of those? Whoever said that, get them here to tell me to my face. If it weren't for the completely wrong timing, I would be dragging her by the collar right now, demanding an explanation for every single one of these misunderstandings. She seemed to realize that something was off with my mood. She paused for a moment and asked, "Is it inconvenient for you?" I didn't speak, just kept staring at her, my teeth grinding. A few seconds later, she suddenly turned away, muttering softly, "Sorry, never mind then." She quickly turned to leave. As she did, I caught a glimpse of her slightly flushed ear tips. That's when I finally remembered. Despite this lousy image she had of me, she didn't want a divorce. In fact, all those awkward, passionate, near-confessional words from her online post resurfaced in my mind. Just as she was about to leave, I subconsciously reached out and grabbed her wrist. She glanced down at our interlocked hands, her long lashes flickering, yet her face still maintained that cool, aloof vibe. "Got something to say?" she asked. I looked at her flushed earlobes, then back at her composed face, and suddenly felt the urge to tease her a bit. "Nothing, just that—" My eyes traveled slowly down, taking in her beautiful face, her long neck, and her curvy figure. Stepping closer, I murmured, "You seem different tonight." Clara's eyes widened slightly as she instinctively tried to pull back, only to find her wrist still held firmly in my grip. She reluctantly turned, trying to lean away as she said coolly, "Leo, you're too close." In the soft, warm light of the second-floor hallway, I could clearly see a faint blush spreading from her ears to her cheeks. She was oddly easy to tease. I stared at her face, and my fingers itched to act. "I'll be gentle," I assured myself, convinced that there was no harm in a little harmless teasing. With that thought, I released her wrist and lightly touched the edge of her robe's collar. Clara snapped her head back, her eyes wide. Her lips moved a couple of times as if she wanted to say something, but she hesitated and didn't speak. I seized the moment, tracing my fingertips slowly down from her collarbone, along the silk edge of her collar. The silk of her pajamas was smooth and soft, and the skin beneath was supple and elastic. Maybe it was the cool temperature in the corridor, but she felt a bit cold to the touch, like warm jade, perfectly smooth. As my fingertips glided over her chest, I felt her body stiffen and her breathing become rapid. She took a shallow breath, and her voice was panicked and raspy as she pushed me away. "Wait, not outside." Before she could complete her sentence, I wrapped my arms around her tightly. Then, with a very serious look on my face, I patted her shoulder and kindly reminded her, "It's autumn now. Wearing these pajamas, you might catch a cold. Let me help you pull it tighter." She seemed shocked at how things had turned out, her silver-gray eyes showing a rare confusion. I acted like I didn't notice anything, holding back my laughter, and asked, "By the way, what were you just saying about not outside?" Almost as soon as I asked, her face turned bright red like a steamed crab. She retreated a step, straining to say, "Nothing. You heard wrong." With that, she turned and walked quickly away. This time I didn't stop her, but I called out in a leisurely tone, "Clara, I'll be at the party in 2 weeks, on time." After watching her head back to her room, I closed my door and lay back on my bed, burying my face in the pillow and letting out the first real belly laugh of the day. Oh my God, I couldn't take it. Clara was just too innocent. It was supposed to be some adult flirting, so why did it feel like I was a rogue harassing a good, diligent student on the street? With her, I couldn't help but crack up halfway through and had to back out. Laughing until my stomach hurt, I finally remembered to take out my phone and scroll through our chat history. I have to say, knowing her true identity now, rereading our chats was quite refreshing. But the more I read, the more puzzled I became. Let's not talk about some white moonlight from my past for now. I just want to know why her self-evaluation is so shockingly low. Is someone constantly putting her down? I couldn't help but think of her cheating, law-breaking father who favored his illegitimate child. He seemed like the kind of jerk who would pull such a thing. As I frowned, lost in thought, a transfer notification popped up on my phone. Message: payment received $100,000. The next second, her familiar profile picture appeared with a message. "Master, you're amazing!" A short message with 4 exclamation marks. Yet after a year of marriage, our texts had never contained more than 2 commas. I couldn't help but laugh. If she had always chatted with me with this same enthusiasm, I would have realized she liked me a long, long time ago. So I replied rather coolly, "What happened?" "I used your method, and tonight my husband not only held my hand, but he also worried that I'd catch a cold. He's so gentle." I read the message and slowly typed out a single question mark in my mind. Wait a minute. Are you sure we experienced the same thing? Where did any hand-holding happen? That was a whole tug of war. And where was the concern? That was just an excuse to get closer. Honestly, if one day I sold her, she would probably happily count the money for me and then praise me for my cleverness. She's such a... I sighed and quietly muttered, "Love-struck fool." With my phone in hand, I tinkered with my response, unable to maintain a cool tone. I could only reply dryly, "That's nice. Congrats to you." "All thanks to you, Master. What should I do next?" What should you do? I had no clue. My original plan was for you to ride the momentum, and if there was any response, I was hoping you could achieve some harmony after a little friction on the pillow. Who would have thought you'd be sharing the bed with me, a total stranger online? But then it hit me. This was a golden chance to get to know Clara better. Otherwise, with her keeping everything bottled up inside, who knows how long it would take for me to figure out what was really on her mind. Once I realized that, my fingers typed much faster. Simple. Love is all about attraction. First, you were physically appealing. Now, we need to focus on psychological attraction. Do you have any hobbies or special skills? Does having money count? That counts as joint property, I replied. It doesn't have to be amazing, just something to spark a conversation, like skiing, swimming, or enjoying art shows and operas. All of those can work. The typing indicator on her end showed for ages. Then, finally, she sent a message. "Does cooking count?" Cooking? Of course it does. I didn't expect a powerful CEO's hobby to be so down to earth. In my mind, I pictured Clara wearing a cute apron while she was cooking. I have to admit, it was kind of adorable. So I promptly gave her enthusiastic encouragement. "But my cooking tastes pretty average. Wouldn't giving it to a chef be better?" Wrong. Big mistake. You can buy a chef's meals anywhere. But something you cook personally is extraordinary. Imagine this. If there were 2 plates in front of you, one is a gourmet dish made by a world-class chef, and the other is a simple dish made by your husband. Which one would you eat? Eating it would be a waste. Can't I freeze-dry it for a keepsake? Hold on. What did she just say? Before I could reread her message, she withdrew it, replacing it with a new reply. "I understand. You're right, Master. Is there anything else to keep in mind?" Seeing her inquire so earnestly, I decided to ignore the withdrawn message for now and offered more advice. Remember, the presentation doesn't need to be top-notch. Just make it a bit messy to show that it's your own work. But the taste should be slightly better than it looks to give him a pleasant surprise. As expected from a master. Noted. Anything else? Just keep an eye on his taste preferences. Try making something he likes, and don't overdo it. Got it. No problem. Upon reading this, I hesitated, a bit doubtful. He eats like a preset robot, without even a glance at his food. Can she really tell what I like? Thinking it over, I decided to test the waters. Okay, tell me his taste preferences. I'll help you figure out what's suitable to make. All right, she wrote. He prefers sweet things, doesn't like ginger, celery, or bell peppers, and he won't eat any raw food, and he's allergic to crab. That's what I know. Some of this stuff I haven't even told anyone. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean I can't eat it. When I need to, I still will. You would never know that if you didn't pay extremely close attention. Looking at the message on the screen, my feelings were all over the place. Before, I had only realized that she liked me. But at this moment, I truly and deeply felt it. It was hidden too well and too subtly. It was in her restrained words, in the faint blush under her hairline, in those fleeting looks she gave me at every meal. Without this accident, I would never have discovered it. My heart felt like it had been scorched by something hot, and it began to pound in my chest. While I was daydreaming, I sent her a few meal suggestions and finally ended our chat. Her last message said, "Thanks for your help. I'll have the chef give me some more training in the next couple of days. I'll update you soon." I stared at that message for a long while, then quietly buried my flushed face in my pillow. I have reason to suspect that Clara is playing hard to get. 3 days. A whole 3 days have passed. Where is the homemade food she promised? I haven't even seen a single leaf of lettuce from her. Did the receptionist at my company stop her? Not knowing could be a possibility. Back when the company was in a critical state, I was completely focused on securing investment, so our wedding was extremely low-key. Only some executives and a few key partners knew about it. Poor Clara. She might have felt wronged by that. Feeling a pang of guilt, I went down to the front desk and asked the receptionist. After thinking for a moment, she nervously said, "I don't remember ever seeing this person, sir." Good. The last bit of guilt I felt vanished. I was unstoppable. Just in case, I showed her Clara's photo and told her to send Clara straight to my office if she ever came by. After all this, my secretary reminded me that the project lead from Company F had arrived. When I took my documents to the meeting room, I met an unexpected face. Sophie. She sat by the window in a dark gray turtleneck, flipping through some papers. It had been years. She had lost that youthful innocence and had grown more composed, yet she still had that same cold, distant vibe about her. Hearing the door open, she looked up at me and said, "Leo, long time no see," with a rare, soft smile. It really had been a while. We had broken up when she decided to move to Germany to study. We hadn't seen each other in 7 years. Old memories flooded back, and I couldn't help but think of our high school days. My relationship with Sophie was like a textbook teenage romance. She was smart and pretty, with a cold demeanor, but she came from a poor family. Her parents had died in a car crash, and she only had a frail grandmother to rely on. Who wouldn't be drawn to such a delicate flower? Well, I certainly was. Conveniently, I had some money to spare, so I found a great nursing home for her grandmother, and even paid for her tuition. There's no doubt that money can make anyone seem more charming. Plus, I was decent all around. Over time, naturally, we developed mutual feelings and were happily together. We met during a competition in our freshman year and started dating in our sophomore year. In our junior year, her grandmother got very ill, and I stayed by her side in the hospital and through the funeral. After the college entrance exams, she excelled, earned a spot in a joint program with a foreign university, and left for Germany. I chose a local college and started getting involved in my family's business right from my freshman year. From high school sweethearts, we took separate paths and were now crossing paths again. If this were some cheesy novel about rekindled love, I would probably be hugging her right now, pouring my heart out. But sadly, I'm a married man, currently busy playing newlyweds with my wife. So I just smiled politely. Indeed, it's been a while. In adult life, even the strongest bonds come second to work. Sophie and I, along with the other project leads, hammered out the project details until noon. As lunchtime rolled around and people started trickling out for their breaks, we were left alone in the meeting room. Sitting across from Sophie, the atmosphere was awkwardly calm. She glanced at the ring on my finger and then asked, "Is Clara treating you well?" I paused. "You know her?" She looked at me, puzzled. "You don't remember her? We were in the same class. She was even my desk mate for a month. I thought you knew." Of course I didn't. We had new desk mates every month in high school, which meant she had at least 10 others. We weren't even in the same class. How could I possibly remember them all? Seeing my silence, Sophie smiled. "She never mentioned it to you?" Then, in a tone that was half satirical and half self-mocking, she added, "Did she also never tell you that she was the one who got me that scholarship to study abroad?" The room was silent for a moment, frozen in time. I looked up at her, my expression composed. "So, what are you trying to say?" Sophie hesitated. "You don't believe me?" She leaned forward desperately. "I'm not lying. She may seem innocent to you, but that's not the real her. She's very calculating." "Sophie," I said, cutting her off, "it was you who decided to study abroad without a single word to me. It was you who kept it a secret from me for over a month. It was you who didn't trust that I would let you go. As for my wife," I stated clearly, "I'll see and hear for myself what kind of person she is. I don't need others to tell me." Just as I finished speaking, my phone rang. It was the receptionist, sounding confused. "Mr. Leo, the person you told me about today showed up, but after we passed by the meeting room, she suddenly said she wanted to leave. Can you explain what's going on?" I turned to glance at the half-open meeting room door, then back at Sophie, who was visibly upset and standing very close to me. I couldn't hold back a silent curse. "Stop her for me," I said into the phone. "I'll be right there." I hung up the phone after saying that, ready to leave. As I was pulling the door open, I heard Sophie's voice, trembling a little. "Leo, if I hadn't chosen to study abroad back then, would the person putting a ring on your finger be me?" "Sophie," I said with a rare sigh, "there's no if in this world." With a click, I closed the door, leaving her alone to calm down. When I rushed to my office, Clara was sitting on the couch, sipping tea. A huge, multi-layered food container was on the coffee table. My secretary, who knew about our relationship, was standing there awkwardly. Seeing me arrive, she breathed a visible sigh of relief and thoughtfully closed the door behind her as she left. Honestly, I felt a little awkward, too. Getting caught in a situation with your ex by your current wife is not something I've had to deal with before. I awkwardly sat down next to Clara and sneaked a look at her expression. It was no different from usual. Clearing my throat, I decided to start with some small talk. "Why didn't you let me know you were coming? I could have come down to pick you up." Silence. Clara kept her head down, tracing the rim of her teacup over and over with her finger. After a while, she asked softly, "Is it because she's back that you want to divorce me?" She didn't say a name, but the implication was clear. Sophie had been telling the truth. They did indeed know each other. Moreover, the white moonlight she had mentioned in her online post finally had an answer. But the question remained. With such an unforgettable face, why did I have absolutely no recollection of her from high school? That didn't add up. I didn't speak for a moment, trying hard to recall any memories from those years. Clara seemed to take my silence as confirmation. She held her cup so tightly that her fingertips turned white. Then, She closed her eyes, took a deep breath and said, "Okay." I was still lost in my reminiscence and automatically asked, "What?" I said, "Okay," she repeated. "Both of our companies have just stabilized, so a divorce right now would be troublesome. If you're willing to cancel the divorce, some of the clauses in our marriage agreement can be nullified." Her voice was particularly slow, and each word seemed to be forcibly pulled from her throat. "You can like someone, even be with them, as long as you don't bring them home." I listened to her words, almost dumbfounded. What does she mean by them? What does she mean by "don't bring them home"? Does she think I'm some kind of insatiable wolf? I couldn't help but laugh in exasperation. I stared at her face, then suddenly got up, pinning her down on the couch. The cup fell from her hands and rolled a bit, leaving a transparent trail on the floor. Lying on the edge of the sofa, her hair was in disarray. "Clara," I said, looking down at her and calling her name firmly. "You've taught me a lot about company matters, so now I want to teach you something." I pressed my elbow to her chest, preventing her from getting up easily, then pinched her chin. People have mouths to speak clearly. I did like Sophie, but that was 7 years ago. I didn't know when she came back, and today was our first meeting since the breakup. We were standing close because we were arguing. And there's surveillance in the meeting room. I can get someone to check the footage right away. As for the divorce, I paused, deciding to lay everything out on the table. You've completely grasped S Group's channels, and except for those shared channels, our company's businesses don't overlap at all. The so-called cooperation is essentially dead. So I wanted to dissolve it. With the company business untangled, this contract marriage naturally serves no purpose anymore. So, do you have any questions about what I just said? This time it was Clara's turn to be shocked. She looked like a lagging robot that had been overloaded with information. She slowly blinked, then shook her head. "Good. Now it's my turn to ask you," I said. I leaned slightly, looking directly into her eyes, and asked softly, "Tell me, why did you come over at lunchtime today?" Clara's long lashes fluttered, as if she were enchanted. She whispered, "I wanted to see you." I grinned, satisfied with her answer. Leaning down, I planted a gentle, butterfly-light kiss near her lips as a reward. "Great. Let's have lunch together." Clara is really too humble. Her cooking is precisely to my taste. If she weren't significantly wealthier than me, I would seriously consider hiring her as my personal chef. Her face, too, is a feast in itself, fitting the saying, "a feast for the eyes," especially when she's blushing. All in all, we wrapped up this lunch in a tacit exchange of affection. An hour after she left, my phone buzzed. 3 new messages had popped up, all from the same familiar profile picture. "Master, I tried transferring more money to you, but I hit a limit. Do you have any unlimited card accounts?" Or, "I noted that you also live in City A, and I have a decent property here. If you're interested, I can give it to you. By the way, I've also got some nice land. How about I build you a temple?" Clara's family is seriously wealthy. It's a miracle they haven't gone bankrupt yet with such a besotted successor. Jokes aside, I slipped back into my master persona and started typing. "No rush. Tell me about the progress this time." "Right. That's what I wanted to say, Master. Thanks to your advice, my problem's been resolved." "Wait, how is it resolved? How am I, the person directly involved, completely unaware of this?" As I was puzzling over this, there was a knock on my door. My secretary entered, thrilled, and handed me a printed project plan. "Mr. Leo J. Group wants to enter the car manufacturing industry. They're interested in our patents and production lines, and are planning a visit next week." "Great. Making overlapping business when there was none, huh? Deciding the entire group's future direction in just an hour." "Clara, you're really something." Suddenly, I felt a tinge of sympathy for the employees of J Group. Working is already exhausting, and now they were somehow caught up in this unexpected CEO romance saga. But as I flipped through the project proposal, something seemed off. There was no way anyone could have whipped this up in just an hour. All the data and analysis clearly took extensive research over at least a year. I paused and kept flipping through, page by page, until I found the project's proposal date. Shockingly, it was dated way before our marriage agreement was even signed. I suddenly felt this unexplainable certainty. If my family's company hadn't hit that crisis, this proposal would have been our first encounter. Even if we had divorced, she would have found her way back to me, again and again, like a relentless pursuit. So I told my assistant to notify the other departments to get ready for the visit. I sat alone in my office, deep in thought. The project was obviously a good thing, and it feels nice to be liked. But being loved is a whole different story. If Clara just likes me, I'm totally fine with keeping this marriage going, maybe even getting closer. After all, her looks and personality tick all my boxes. I'd even say I lucked out, but her truly loving me, that's something I need to weigh carefully. Love is heavy and unpredictable. For people like us, in our world, it's nearly synonymous with danger. Today, she says she loves me and is willing to support me with her entire company's resources. But what if tomorrow she doesn't? She could take everything away. Plus, from her own concerns and what Sophie had said, it felt like something from high school had drawn her to me. Was it the high school version of me she liked? Or even worse, a version of me she had imagined? What if someday she finds out that the real me is different? Will she regret it or even resent me? These were things I needed to consider. So, what on earth happened in high school? I couldn't remember anything significant. Ugh, my head hurts. As I was rubbing my temples, my phone pinged with that familiar icon. I suddenly realized I hadn't replied to Clara's texts. I quickly checked my phone. There were only 2 new messages. Even though things are settled, I'd still love to follow your lead and learn how to be a good wife. 10 minutes later, since I hadn't replied, she sent another message. Are you okay? Do you need my help with anything? Looking at her texts, it hit me. Why not just ask her directly? Feeling enlightened, I quickly typed back, No worries, just handled a little issue. Let's continue. About being a good wife, what do you think that means? Making my husband happy, she replied instantly. I just want him to feel happy with me. Nothing more. I paused. I had considered every possible answer except this one. For a moment I felt guilty about my suspicions, but only for a moment. I shook my head, pushing those complex thoughts away. Got it. Can you share more details about your time together? It would help me give you better advice later. Sure. Where do you want me to start? From the beginning, maybe? Like, how did you two meet? The beginning? He left some candies on my desk. Oh, I remember that. I used to do that. I wasn't in Sophie's class, but I often visited her there to chat. At first, I'd ask someone to call her out, but later, I got familiar enough with the class to just stroll in. Of course, this could be bothersome to others, so I often carried snacks to share with everyone. Candy was convenient for this. Small, easy to distribute, and liked by most people. If Clara had been Sophie's deskmate, it made sense. It happened, I typed, my curiosity piqued. And then what? That's it, really. I mean, did you talk or have any other interactions? None at all. No wonder I can't recall. Who would remember that? I tried asking different questions, but got nothing useful. We truly had no other interactions in high school, and I knew everything that had happened afterward. So, what did she really like about me? My head throbbed even more. I almost wanted to just ask her directly. Then, I spotted the invitation from the Smiths on my desk. A new plan began to form in my mind. If I can't find out while she's sober, what about when she's drunk? I pondered for a bit, then started typing. I've realized a big issue from your description. It seems you've never said any sweet words to your husband. True, no way. That's no good. Think of marriage as a soup. Sweet words are the key seasoning. Without them, the soup is tasteless. Would you want to drink bland soup? I wouldn't, but suddenly saying sweet things might gross him out. My heart softened a bit, and my tone became gentler. It's okay, let me help you. Sweet talk seems tricky, but it's really all about setting the right mood. If you create a nice atmosphere, even simple words can move people. Take candlelit dinners, for example. They're popular for a reason, right? Imagine the music, the flowers, the food, and the candlelight. Almost anything you say in that setting feels romantic. Got it. You're saying I should prepare a candle at dinner? Don't follow it so rigidly. Be flexible, really. As long as there's a similar vibe, you can try saying something sweet to deepen your connection. If you're shy, maybe you could consider having a little bit to drink. When people are slightly tipsy, they get bolder. But don't overdo it. Do you have any reason to drink soon? There's a party in a few days with drinks, but I usually don't drink there. Perfect. Sip a little. Pretend you're more tipsy than you really are. And then say those words you've been hesitant about. After typing that, I anxiously awaited her reply, nervous that she might catch on to my scheme. I saw the typing indicator linger briefly, hesitating maybe. But she eventually responded, "Okay, I'll give it a try." The day of the party came around quickly. Clara and I showed up at the ballroom, arm in arm. The J Group's plans to expand into new business areas had been a hot topic, and since I was the chosen partner, people in our circle naturally paid me quite a bit of attention. To cultivate our business relations, I spent the entire evening socializing. It wasn't until the party had ended and Clara and I got into the car that I remembered I had other plans for the night. In the dim light inside the car, there was a faint smell of red wine. I glanced over at Clara to check in on her, only to find that she was already looking at me. Our eyes met awkwardly, so I asked casually, "Did you have a drink tonight?" "Yeah," she replied softly. "How much did you have?" "1 glass, not as much as you." Turns out my plan had failed. I sighed quietly and closed my eyes, pretending to nap to avoid any further conversation. We went upstairs together when we got home. My room was the closest, so like usual, I said goodnight and opened my door. Unexpectedly, she followed me inside. Because of the party, her hair was neatly styled, making her look clear-eyed and delicate. Her fitted suit and those silver-gray eyes gave her the appearance of a noblewoman from an old European castle. Though I was puzzled, I couldn't help but be patient with her because of those captivating eyes. "Is something wrong?" I asked. She said nothing, just stood there gazing down at the floor, which made me feel uneasy. After a moment of silence, I had an idea. I waved my hand in front of her face and asked, "Clara, how many fingers am I holding up?" She looked back and forth between my fingers and my face. Then she held my wrist and gently pressed her cheek to my palm, like a cat nuzzling its owner. "No way. Did you really get tipsy from just 1 glass of wine?" I studied Clara's expression, and although she looked calm, I figured she must be drunk. I couldn't resist laughing. I led her to sit on the edge of the bed. Sitting there, she seemed much more docile, just looking up at me sweetly. I cleared my throat, ready to start my question and answer plan, beginning with the basics. "What's your name? How old are you?" She didn't answer any of my questions, just sat there quietly. She's always been reserved, I thought with a sigh. "So," I asked her offhandedly, "do you know who I am?" "Yes." Her unexpected reply caught me off guard. When I looked up, there she was, staring right at me. "I know. You're Leo, Sophie's boyfriend." "Wrong," I said. I raised the picture frame from the bedside table to show her. In it, we were standing arm in arm, looking happy. Seeing the picture, she quickly turned away, as if she were avoiding an electric shock. Putting the frame back, I chuckled and asked, "Now do you know who I am?" She turned her head down, not saying a word. After a while, she quietly said, "Yeah, I know. I must be dreaming again." "Again?" I seized on the word, asking, "You have dreams like this a lot?" She seemed bashful, avoiding eye contact. I leaned closer and teased, "Clara, do you have a thing for me?" She didn't respond, her long eyelashes fluttering like a caught butterfly. Seeing this, I joked, "We've never really talked before. Why do you like me?" She looked up, thought for a moment, and then said, "Why can't I like you if we haven't talked?" I was stumped by that and had to think about it before answering. "It's not that you can't, it's just, shouldn't there be a reason?" Silence filled the room. Just when I thought she wouldn't answer, she grasped my wrist and quietly said, "I watch you a lot." Avoiding my gaze, she continued, "Everything about you is so vibrant in my eyes." Though her words were subtle, they were incredibly sweet. My heart skipped a beat. I suddenly understood why I had wanted a direct answer from her. Maybe it was because I secretly wanted to hear her say, "I like you. Looks like I'm quite the romantic myself." Realizing this, I should have said no, but instead I just chuckled and gently lifted her chin, teasing, "If I'm vibrant, what color are you?" She turned away, hesitant to answer. Under my gentle insistence, she finally said, "Gray." "Because of your eye color?" I guessed. "No, because I'm just plain and boring." My heart softened at her words, but I knew our future was long, and I wanted to change her view of herself, so I held her hand and said, "Look, you've already taken on my color." Clara paused. Then a small smile bloomed on her face. It was the first time I had ever seen her smile like that, as beautiful as spring ice melting after a long winter. Just as I was about to speak, she covered my eyes with her hand and gently pushed me away before heading into the bathroom. I stayed on the bed, hiding my laughter in the pillow. A few moments later, I heard a loud noise from the bathroom. I rushed to the door with concern, only to find that a shelf had fallen. Breathing a sigh of relief, I saw her standing under the running shower. Our eyes met. I saw a fragile vulnerability in her gaze, hidden beneath her usually clear expression. I walked over, adjusted the water temperature, and embraced her again, warming us both. I found myself wondering how things had gotten to this point. Initially, I was planning to get a divorce. Then, somehow, I ended up guiding her online, and then, in a way, guiding myself. How did I end up teaching her even stuff like this? Noticing my distraction, she unexpectedly pulled me back with a firm grip on my wrist. Over and over, back and forth, it felt like a child savoring a piece of candy, reluctant to bite or swallow, just keeping it on their tongue and savoring it until it completely melted away. When I opened my eyes again, the sun was high in the sky, and my body felt like it had been completely rebuilt, sore all over. A cup of water was handed to me. I looked over to see Clara, sitting neatly dressed as usual, with a calm expression on her face, just like always. I sat up slowly, took the cup, and drank a few sips in silence. For some reason, the atmosphere felt slightly awkward. I put down the cup and asked cautiously, "Do you remember what you did last night?" "Yeah, I remember," Clara replied softly. Relieved, I said, "Good, as long as you remember." My attitude relaxed a lot, and I asked with a smile, "So, what's the deal with us now?" "I know," Clara murmured. "I've already prepared the divorce papers. What do you know now?" Although I was almost used to her magical way of thinking, it still managed to rile me up. Clara noticed it too and started speaking faster. "I'm sorry. I got drunk last night and thought it was all a dream, so I let out a cold laugh. So?" Her voice turned dry. "So I did something really bad to you, and I—" She trailed off, seemingly unsure of what to say next. As silence settled over us, the air grew cold. Right when I was about to reveal the truth and remind her not to overthink things next time, a single teardrop suddenly fell onto her hand. I was stunned. After snapping out of it, I quickly moved to the bed to help her wipe away her tears. "Wait, I haven't said anything yet. Why are you crying?" Even Clara seemed more surprised by her tears than I was. She turned away quickly, raised her hand, and angrily wiped her face a few times. Instinctively, I grabbed her wrist to stop her. She didn't resist, just kept a cold look on her face while tears streamed down her cheeks. I felt both heartache and amusement at the same time. So I explained what had really happened last night. "I did it willingly. It's not your fault." Clara paused, lowered her gaze, and the tears started rolling down her face even faster. "You don't have to force yourself to comfort me. I'm not comforting you. It's the truth." Unfortunately, no matter how much I insisted, she didn't believe me. With no other choice, I let go of her hand, picked up my phone, and handed it to her. "Seriously, see for yourself." Clara glanced at the screen. Her eyes widened slightly and the tears finally stopped. "A master," she whispered. I nodded calmly. "I just happened to see your question online. I felt like it was kind of like you, so I created a small account to test it out. I didn't expect it to actually be you, so I was ready for you to get drunk last night." I squinted, noticing the faint marks on her neck, and chuckled. "Who forced who? It's still up in the air." Clara's ears turned bright red instantly. She turned her head away and asked, "Since you knew all along, then why did you keep—" "It's fun," I said, smiling at her. "First love? You think I have some childhood crush? I'm amused. What else did you come up with?" Clara looked extremely uneasy, as if she was about to jump out the window. I chuckled, feeling a hint of sweet revenge. "Oh, right," I said slowly. "You said I married you just for your money. That part isn't entirely wrong." I sighed and asked her honestly, "Aren't you afraid that I'll just take the money and run?" Clara looked at me, puzzled, and asked, "Just take the money? Why run?" I raised an eyebrow, amused. "And not leaving you a single dime, okay?" Clara nodded, then asked, "Do you want to do it? I can have my assistant draft the contract right now." I was about to laugh, but when I met her eyes, I realized she was completely serious. She was genuinely ready to give me everything, even though I had only mentioned it casually. Sunlight streamed through the window, lighting up her silvery gray eyes. Through them, I saw her sincerest heart, so transparent and so beautiful. It made my heart race. I was dazed for a long while, but eventually I shook my head. "No." "Why?" she asked. I looked at her and leaned in to give her a quick, soft kiss. "I can't," I whispered. "I like you too much. I can't." Clara was stunned. Just when I thought she would blush, she suddenly hugged me tightly. It was such a firm embrace, it almost made it hard for me to breathe. "I love you," she said, her voice trembling over and over again. "I love you. I love you." I hugged her back just as tightly, gently patting her back. "I know," I said softly. "I know you love me. In all those times I didn't see it, you loved me quietly for a very long time. So from now on, I'll work hard to love you too." Clara's epilogue. In her senior year of high school, Clara fell for someone. His name was Leo, her deskmate's boyfriend. High school Clara was a bit of an oddball. She was a loner, silent, with bangs so long they nearly covered her eyes. She needed to hide her eyes. She would have hidden her entire face if she could, because under her father's fists, that was the only way to avoid being hurt. The reason was simple. She looked too much like her grandfather, and her father feared him. That stark fear bred a stark rage. The more he feared, the harsher he would hit her. The family story was a typical one. A rich girl falls for a poor guy, and against all odds, she marries him, not knowing that he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. When her strongest ally, her grandfather, passed away, the once gentle lover showed his fangs, leaving her mother devastated. Finally, she chose to end her own life, hoping to make the villain regret his actions. But did he regret it? No way. He was delighted. He found a new woman, had new kids, and started using Clara as a punching bag to vent his past grievances of having to bow so low. But Clara didn't hate her father. Ever since her mom died, she had become numb to most things. How to describe it? The world in her eyes was like her mom's old photograph. Gray and white, dull, tasteless, and monotonous. Maybe because she was so detached, her father eventually lost interest in hitting her. Clara was always treated as if she were invisible, and honestly, she loved it. At home and at school, no one bothered her. Her life was simple: eat, study, sleep, wake up, and then do it all over again. That was until her first day as Sophie's desk mate. Suddenly, there were colorful candies and a note with flowy handwriting on her desk. "Sorry for taking your seat. Here's a little apology. Please accept it with a smile. Kui." That day, Clara stared at the little smiley face on the note for ages, before slowly and carefully packing the candies into her bag. The next morning, she went through her usual routine and returned to the classroom. But as soon as she stepped in, she saw someone in her seat. A boy was there, slightly leaning his head, his hand casually resting on her deskmate's shoulder, tapping it gently. He looked vibrant and youthful, but worry was etched on his face. There was a unique atmosphere between them, one that no one could possibly intrude on. Clara paused, then turned and walked back out into the hallway. As classmates filtered back into the classroom, some of them noticed what had happened and casually chatted about it. "Why is Leo always here these days?" "I heard Sophie's grandmother passed away recently. He's probably comforting her." "How sweet. I want a relationship like that in college." "You wish?" Their voices faded away. Clara stood alone, leaning against the cool wall, and a faint ripple of emotion stirred in her heart. So, she thought, there are people who will comfort you when a loved one dies. Intrigued, Clara started observing Leo, but soon she found out that it was a mistake. Maybe because she was so used to being knocked around, Clara's senses were a bit sharper than others. This meant she couldn't easily ignore what went on around her, like when Leo would laugh with his friends, but her glance would catch him secretly linking his finger with Sophie's under the desk. Or after Leo would sit at her desk to wait for Sophie, he'd leave behind colorful candies and the faint warmth of where he'd been sitting. And when Leo whispered to Sophie, Clara could clearly hear every word. Which teacher gave too much homework? Which friend had pulled off some embarrassing stunt? What new items were available at a certain store? It was nothing particularly special, but it gave her an illusion, like these little bits of life were being shared just with her, as if they were close. Clara tightened her grip on her pen. For the first time in her life, she tasted jealousy. It was like a relentless fire, thawing the layers of ice that had formed around her heart and revealing a secret crush. Clara often thought about how mysterious life is. Just one single moment can change everything. A photograph had turned her world gray. A few pieces of candy brought all the colors back. 30 days flew by, and it was time to switch seats again. The classroom was buzzing with activity when Clara heard Sophie's casual, cutting remark as she was moving her things. "Don't you feel gross, eavesdropping on other people's conversations all the time?" Clara paused, but she didn't retaliate. She just calmly replied, "It's not as bad as being dead weight." Sophie looked up, her eyes wide, and stared at her, staying silent. But the veins on the back of her hand started to show. Their eyes met, clashed, and then parted, like an unspoken war had just been waged. That was their first and last conversation. That evening, Clara finally approached her father. She offered to give up 3% of her shares and study abroad, leaving all her inheritance rights to her half-brother. Her father appreciated her sense and immediately had someone draft the transfer documents. He also contacted the school to arrange for extra spots to study abroad. "Better make it 2, Clara said, smiling for the first time in a long time. "I have a friend, too." People say that the one who knows you the best isn't necessarily your friend. It could be your rival. Graduation came quickly. As expected, Sophie opted to study abroad. Meanwhile, Clara boarded a plane to the UK. In this foreign land, finally free from her father's control, she learned rapidly, utilizing her grandfather's old connections to gather evidence against her father, until the day everything turned around. She finally had enough clout to pursue the someone she liked. Clara had imagined being well-dressed and eloquent when she saw Leo again. She had prepared a list of 100 discussion topics to avoid any awkwardness. But when she finally met him, her mind went completely blank. She reverted to her gloomy, clumsy teenage self, the one who only dared to steal glances at him from afar. So she messed up again. Within a year, he had asked for a divorce. That night, when she reached out online hoping for help, it was more about venting her frustrations. She knew Leo couldn't possibly fall for her, unless by some miracle. And there was a miracle. In a sea of countless questions and answers, they miraculously crossed paths. She was noticed, understood, and finally accepted. Clara once fantasized about how she would feel if Leo ever liked her back. Shock, fear, joy. But when it finally happened, it was none of those. Instead, she thought of her mother, the naive, foolish woman who had paid for love with her own life. And she felt justified. Pursuing love wasn't wrong. Trusting someone wasn't wrong. Giving her heart away wasn't wrong. She wasn't wrong. She had just loved the wrong person. Fortunately, she had the world's gentlest partner now.